Welcome to Confident Woman Incubator Radio and Podcast, where we have candid conversations, confident points of view with influential business women and businessmen impacted by psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse or who have the same personal interests as you and I. Confident Woman Incubator Radio and Podcast is presented by Divine Connection Network Association, CEO Dr. Doreen Lettsome, psychological incarceration specialist, consultant, speaker, author, and your radio podcast host. I help attorneys, judges, government officials, and companies become trauma informed while advocating for their clients to become free from psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse by recognizing what is not yet in statute, but is destroying lives. Today, we have a very special guest, and I am very excited to bring him on from a businessman point of view. And he has his own company, Elite Barbecue Smokers. And I'm going to let Jason welcome, Jason. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because when I heard this, I was like, what? I had never heard this concept. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and talk about Elite Barbecue Smokers and what you would have us to know about what you're doing, which is very unique. And you got all these ribbons and all of this throughout the state. At this point, you're going to take over the world with your barbecue. I think the objective is. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Jason Hardee with Elite Barbecue Smokers, based out of Conway, South Carolina. I've been doing competition barbecue since 2010, and we've been competing all over the country. I've been doing that and been very blessed with that. Meet some amazing people and kind of a different world out there, kind of seeing other points of views and other ideas. But one of the things that we started doing with this, and this is about 2012, we started doing it Saturday mornings at barbecue competitions. We started doing barbecue church. At 6:45, we get together, the men and women of competition barbecue to competitors. We basically just share a message, pray together, share some stories together, and just do about 10, 15 minutes. That's kind of what we do with that. And it's been pretty amazing, just the people we've met, the lives we've touched doing that all over the country. So it's been something pretty special.
Barbecue church. I mean, you can't get any better. I'm eating barbecue. I'm learning how to do barbecue, and I'm going to church. Wow. That is amazing, Jason. So, we met the other week at a networking event with a mutual company, and we just started talking, and I was sharing with you what I do as a psychological incarceration specialist, and I was sharing with you our upcoming training where we train judges and attorneys and non-legal professionals to become trauma informed so that they are able to recognize the unseen impact of psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse, which is the precursor to domestic violence. And we started having that conversation, and you were giving some really good insights. And I said, I want the audience to hear on Confident Women Incubator Radio and Podcast from a man's point of view, and you're a man in business, so that you can empower the listeners today. So just share what's on your heart, a part of that conversation, and anything else you want to say to empower the listeners.
Yes, man. We were talking about that and kind of from a different perspective than I've ever really thought about it. And you was asking some questions, and we kind of had a conversation back and forth, and led to kind of what me and my wife kind of lifespan's been, kind of one of our motto has been. So kind of one thing I kind of want to take from that is, before I get into that, is saying that before you do anything else and you're in a relationship for a reason. You're in a relationship because you like the other person, you have a common interest, you have shared values. So when you start off a relationship, that's what you have. You don't start a relationship on a bad footing. You shouldn't do that, but that's kind of what you have. And so me and my wife got married, got engaged actually. I talked to her one day. I said, listen, I'm gonna make some promises to you. I said, number one promise is I want you to understand that I always love you. And number two is understand is I'm never going to belittle you, talk down to you, or make you feel less worth than you are, because you're an amazing person and I love you for that. And I said, the other thing is we can go to bed every night. I'm going to kiss you good night. I'll kiss you good morning. I'll tell you I love you. I'm not going to say we're not going to go to bed mad, but we're going to go to bed. We're going to sleep in the same bed. And I said, if you want to sleep on the couch, we'll have to make that thing comfortable. Both of us be on the couch. But that's kind of what it is. But the point about that is, and I was talking to Michelle after me and you talked the other day, and she's told me, she said, I didn't think about how valuable or how good that was until we've been married for almost 20 years now, 17, I think, until now that she's looking back on it and being like, that's kept us to having a very good marriage because we never really got into the situation of name calling. And the way I like to think about this is, if you're going to work for anybody, you're on a baseball team, football team, or any type of sport process, or in a group meeting, and all of a sudden you walk into the meeting the first time, and all of a sudden they sit there calling you names to how worthless you are, you're not going to stay in that group very long. And so when you do that in a marriage, you do that in a situation, it's kind of the same thing. You're not going to stay somewhere you're not wanted, and it's going to be kind of retaliatory back and forth. And in the marriage, you kind of legally into the situation, faithfully into the situation. It's just not easy just to walk away from, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's something that we really should strive to have. But when you start down that road of starting picking that, chiseling away and breaking that statue, just knocking it down, at some point in time, it's going to be so far gone you can't recover. And so when we got married, we basically talked about that, and I was like, this is what we're going to do. And she agreed to it, and we both didn't do it. I didn't demand it to her. I said, this is what my field of value is. And we've done that, and it's been very blessed for that. For 17 years, we had a pretty good marriage.
Yes, sir. And I think from a gentleman's perspective, what I'm hearing you say is that in you and your wife's relationship, there was a conversation of healthy boundaries at the beginning.
Yes,
it
ma'am.
wasn't something that your wife initiated. What I'm hearing is that a man of faith took it upon himself to say, these are my healthy boundaries that I'm going to govern myself with.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing you say. You took ownership of your own self-leadership. That's called self-leadership. You decided to exercise self-control over yourself. And you said, these are the healthy boundaries that I, Jason, am going to do regardless of what happens. This is how I'm going to conduct myself. This is how I'm going to honor this woman because I'm asking her to marry me. And then another thing I heard you say is that you presented it to her and you gave her an option to agree.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't force it. I asked her, did she agree to it?
So there was an agreement. And I think that this is a lot of layers here when we're talking about psychological incarceration due to the domestic abuse, because number one, every 24 minutes, Jason, every 24 minutes, a woman is being impacted. So 1 in 4 women are being impacted. 1 in 7 men are being impacted. So what I'm hearing is to avoid that impact is to at first have some type of healthy boundary set up front. And there must be a level of self-control that both intimate partners are coming into agreement with. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
It is, but and yes, it is. But I'm gonna kind of take that a little bit. In my opinion, again, I'm not a doctor. This is just a common person perspective. I'm gonna be like, you got to understand the value. What's the baseline? You fell in love. You started dating. You got in a relationship for a reason. What's that baseline? That baseline was a love, was common interest. It was something you had. It was a partnership and a common interest. So I don't care if if it's 5 years down the line and y'all been doing this, a couple's been doing this. What I would say is start having some kind of safe word. Let's say play Monopoly. You get into a conversation like that and start saying, somebody starts calling names, just look at the other person and say, hey, let's play Monopoly. And you need something that almost kind of be a shock. Be like, all right, stop what you're thinking. Why does he want to play Monopoly now? Why? Okay, totally change subjects and laugh about it. Have something that you enjoy doing. I'm saying Monopoly, be Uno, it could be going out to get ice cream. It doesn't matter, but you need to have some kind of common thing that can stop the conversation, stop the process, stop that in its tracks. So now before you say, okay, let's back up, let's reset. Let's calm down. Let's look at it from an objective perspective. And like I love this analogy in a lot of different things in business is we need to stop responding and start not responding, but start what's the word when you do something, you got response and you got a plan for
not reacting.
Yeah, you don't want to react. You want to respond. Reacting is like doing something other out of just a quick off the cuff type thing. Responding is a plan going back and forth with a plan to go in there. So you don't want to react. You want to respond. And so I think any way we're looking at a relationship and arguments, whatever else, the first thing is you got to kind of step back, being like, how's the other person perceiving this? How's the other person seeing this? How's the other person handling this? And basically just stop it. And a lot of people don't fight about money and fight about other things. So you kind of be like, okay, let's go sit down for a minute and say a prayer together. Let's do something other kind of stop in the process, and then we can kind of reset from that and then talk about it in a professional manner and a one-on-one and say, okay, at the core of this, I love you. How can we get past this? At the core of this, I love you. How can we solve this problem? And abuse is a kind of a different thing. So I don't know. I'm not educated to speak about that. I'm just speaking about how can we fix a problem so we get back to the baseline of a marriage and love that we had.
Yes, sir. I'm thankful that you recognize that psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse is not a marital issue. Psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse is a power and control issue. So I'm grateful that you were able to recognize that. And I'm also grateful for our listeners being able to hear from the marital issues that may be going on perspective so that they do not escalate into abuse. Because sometimes in relationships, they start out on what you're saying is an even playing field, and then abuse comes later. But in my experience in doing this for 30 years is that with a intimate partner that happens to be a male intimate partner, we'll use him for an example. He's not coming into a relationship as you are. His target, and he targets the female intimate partner. And the only thing he's concerned about is, how can I gain power and control? There is no love. There is no nurturing. Oftentimes, this type of man uses money to bait his prey. Over lavishing of gifts, over lavishing of money. That's called love bombing. He is very subtle. He does not, and very methodical. He takes his time with his prey to ensnare his prey, because the number one objective is to dominate and have power and control. So you are absolutely correct when you're saying that psychological incarceration due to domestic abuse is a different conversation. However, to have a healthy relationship, which is what you are giving us your perspective about, is that there must be boundaries, there must be agreement. And we know that the Bible tells us, how can two walk together except they agree? So I think from that perspective, that is something that is beneficial to us listening here on Conquering with an Incubator Radio and Podcast. What would you like to say, sir?
I would say that the thing everybody has to understand is that they need to see that they're an amazing person. That they need to look in the mirror and basically say that I'm a good person. I'm an amazing person. I can do whatever. I can do things that is beyond my belief right now, because I have courage in myself. I have belief in myself. Now, I would say also that needs to be humbling situation. Like if you want to conquer the world in your business, your job, be like, okay, I can do this. But I go into a meeting and be like, all right, now what can I learn to do my better job? Be humble in that situation. I'm talking about in a successful perspective. The incarceration, the abuse side of that, honestly, I've been blessed, never really been involved with that in my life. So I can't speak to somebody that's been through that, because that would just be wrong. But I can say that from somebody that's very blessed in all my life, and with a wonderful family and everything else, it starts with this: got to teach your children coming up saying you're an amazing person. Don't belittle yourself. Don't let nobody belittle you. Don't let nobody talk down to you. Don't let nobody put you down. You are an amazing person. You do anything you want to do. Be humble enough to ask for help. Be humble enough to sit there and learn, okay, how can I do this better? I don't care if you're the best in the business. Somebody out there can teach you something you didn't know yesterday to do a better job tomorrow. And so I always like to look at that and be like, Every day, be a better day than yesterday. Every day, learn something you didn't know yesterday. Every day, get up and try to do something more than you did yesterday. And every night, say your prayers, kiss your wife, and have a good night, and get up in the morning with a clean slate and start over again with that.
Absolutely. So these are just some keys that you're providing our listening audience with how to have a healthy marriage. And I think that that's very important on Confident Woman Incubator Radio and Podcast. And it's also important because we're getting ready to have this training on August the 22nd, 27th, excuse me. So that's going to be Wednesday, August the 27th. We will have our trauma informed training. You can go to www.divineconnectionnetworkassociation.com and go ahead and register. We will be in person for legal professionals and non-legal professionals to become trauma informed. With those that are legal professionals, they'll actually be able to get their South Carolina Bar Association continuing legal education credits, a whole 0.8 credits. For those that are attending that are non-legal, you will be able to receive your continuing completion certification with us. And with both of those sets of populations, non-legal and legal, we'll continue to support you to become better trauma informed and better to help those clients that you're called to serve. So again, that training is going to be on Wednesday, August the 27th. We will be in person in Florence, 1951 Pisgah Road, right behind Florence Arlington Technical College. Right beside the SMIT building is the Golden, Incubator Business Space, and that's our office. So go to DivineConnectionNetworkAssociation.com and register today. We appreciate you, Jason, for this insight on how to have a healthy marriage. And we appreciate our listeners. Above all, we pray and wish that you would prosper even as your soul prospers. In the name of Jesus, we pray over you. We speak health and life to you, and we will see you and hear from you next time. Thank you for joining Confident Incubator Radio and Podcast. Good night. All right.